We have more for your ears only. I'm David Alpern.
And I'm Catherine Herzog with this news quote. What is the critical mass of African Americans and Hispanics at the university that you are working toward? That was a key question posed by Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts that a lawyer for the University of Texas at Austin could not easily answer in defending use of race as a factor in admissions, beyond a policy of taking the top 10% of graduates from all high schools in the state. Now this.
They can take away my life. They can make me out as a monster. They can treat me as a monster, but they can't take away my heart. In my heart, I know I did not do these alleged disgusting acts.
A masterpiece of banal self-delusion, completely untethered from reality and without any acceptance of responsibility.
Even from behind bars, former Penn State assistant football coach Jerry Sandusky last week continued to profess his innocence. In a recorded statement broadcast on Penn State radio, he rejected the 45 counts of child sexual abuse on which he had been convicted and for which he was sentenced to a prison term of 30 to 60 years at age 68, in essence, the rest of his life. Lead prosecutor Joseph McGetkin ridiculed Sandusky's statement, as we heard. And while he played the victim, several of Sandusky's real victims were allowed to face him in court. We both know exactly what happened, said one.
There are promises of an appeal, of course, based in part on the admittedly swift pace of the proceedings. Less than a year from the time the case first came to light. The university, too, now faces challenges, criminal charges against two former officials, civil suits from victims, and the long road to rebuilding public trust. The university, too, now faces challenges, criminal charges against two former officials, civil suits from victims, and the long road to rebuilding public trust. And Penn State is not alone in that purgatory. A high Catholic Church official recently was convicted for insufficient oversight and reporting of sex abuse of children by priests under his jurisdiction. And the Boy Scouts of America is set to release its own set of revealing internal documents regarding sexual abuse. To consider all this for your ears only, we're joined now by Jolie Logan, CEO of the nonprofit Darkness to Light organization, D2L, that works to increase awareness and prevention of child sex abuse. Welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me.
First, tell us how D2L began and how it works.
Well, we started in 2000 under the premise that it's an adult's responsibility to keep children safe. And at that time, there weren't really any programs that existed to help educate adults on the role that they could play in keeping children safe. And so that's why we started. And what we do is we educate adults how they can so that they can become empowered to protect the children in their lives. We teach them the actions that they can take, and our program is offered in all 50 states around the country.
How surprised are you by Sandusky's continued denial of guilt and his refusal to show remorse that might ease his sentence?
You know, I don't know if surprised is the right word as saddened is the right word. And a continued admiration for the victims and how courageous they were in going through this process.
Do you think charges against Penn State officials, conviction of that Philadelphia diocese official, and the Boy Scout documents will change the way America deals with child sex abuse, the tendency of institutions to turn a blind eye in the interest of their own reputations?
I think it will, and I sure hope that it will, as I think we all do. Increased awareness certainly is helping, but more than anything, these examples show the need for organizations to take accountability and to have comprehensive policies and procedures in place, and I think it's going to have that impact.
And what impact do you see from the increasing amount of sex in the media, the availability of porn, especially child porn online? Does it provide a safe avenue for satisfying abusive impulses, or does it merely provoke those acts in real life?
You know, I don't pretend to know how the mind of a perpetrator works, but I know that the more that we're talking about it in the media, the more that people are empowered to take protective actions, and the more policies we have in place, that certainly creates barriers that we need to put in place between offenders and our children.
All the cases we've mentioned so far will certainly make families think twice before entrusting their children to various organizations and institutions. But if it's true that most abuse is within families, what do you say to those who suspect abuse within a family but hesitate to report it because they fear it will be worse for the children to be taken away to an orphanage, foster care, whatever?
Well, I think the important thing to remember is that we have got to put the focus on what a child needs, and what a child does not need is to continue to be sexually violated. So if a child needs help, we need to do what we need to do to get them help. And all the services that are provided, the goal is to keep them with the family if that's a safe place for them to be, but we have to shift our focus to what's in the best interest of the child.
What advice do you offer to parents on how to talk to their children about sexual abuse, especially when something like the Sandusky case is in the spotlight?
Right. I think this is a great opportunity to talk about it. They are hearing it in the news. So it's conversation starters every day on TV or on the radio. So I would say ask questions. Make sure that your children know that it's okay to tell you absolutely anything, even if they feel like maybe they did something wrong, because often that's at play here, that children feel ashamed or guilty, or maybe their offender has made them feel like they did something wrong. So making sure your child feels comfortable telling you anything, and being very mindful of how you react to anything that they might say. Talking about it, and talking about it.
With children and especially teenagers, there are all sorts of behavior patterns. They have all sorts of concerns and worries. Are there particular signs or symptoms that should tell parents that something may be going on that their child is not totally forthcoming about?
Well, the biggest sign to look for is any sort of change in behavior, any change in what has been normal for your child. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're being sexually abused, but it means something's troubling them. So use that as your red flag to dig a little deeper.
And how do you keep from scaring a child while talking about this?
Well, I think that if you focus on empowering them to know what's okay and not okay in terms of their body and what people are allowed to do to their bodies, that's empowering. I don't think that's a scary conversation.
Jolie Logan is the CEO of Darkness to Light, D2L, a nonprofit organization dedicated to ending child sexual abuse. You can learn more about it at darkness2light.org. That's darkness, the number 2, light.org, or d2l.org.
Quote from the news, military tools, equipment, and ammunition. That was Turkey's prime minister on unauthorized cargo found aboard a Syrian airliner heading home from Moscow when it was grounded by Turkish fighter jets. The incident heightened tensions already gripping Moscow, Istanbul, and the rest of the region.
Next, to keep the music playing, the Mabel Mercer Foundation, for your ears only.